This is willpower.
He's positive, he's practical, he's like in the mix and so ready to just have dialogue on anything we want to talk about. Men, women, and humans of the Willpower Podcast. Please welcome Dylan Gemelli. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to be here finally with you. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Yeah, we've been doing a little dance since we had a chance to meet at the Biohacking conference through some dear friends, and really just like seeing the evolution and the magic that exists in your platform. I'm so happy to share you with all the people who are listening in today. I want to lean in with this first question to give you an opportunity to share some of the magic that you do bring to the table by asking you the biggest challenge you've been through in your life to date, and really how that challenge may have informed even the work that you are doing.
Yeah, so it's a simple question actually to a complex scenario. So I'll keep it short and sweet. I have never made it a secret what I've gone through and how I've evolved. I had everything at one point, that you would think somebody would want. In reality, I had nothing, but I was modeling and acting all over the world and living a life that actually I think is quite insufficient and doesn't fulfill you in whatsoever. But at the time, 20 years old, you think, yeah. And I went to prison and I got exactly what I deserved. And I actually don't recommend going to prison, but at the same hand, it shaped what I do today and why I've evolved into what I've became. So I had a 15-year prison sentence at the age of 28 years old, and I am now 43. Now, thankfully, I only did a couple years of that, but I had to start my life over from scratch at 30 years old. So you can imagine having to live in your mom and dad's basement at 30, wondering, what did I just do to my entire life? You pick up a couple felonies and people look at you differently, no matter what you've done in the past, no matter your education level. I had a master's degree. I had different certifications in all aspects of business and health, and, doesn't matter, right? So what do? Well, you've got two options. You can bitch, complain, blame the world, and probably go back, or just go in this never-ending loop of nothingness. Or you realize, okay, well, you're gonna have to do this yourself. Nobody's gonna do it for you, and you've got a couple options here on what you could possibly do, but you got to figure something out, and you better make it work, and you better make it happen. So, I have done nothing but put my head down and go. I'm kind of all gas, no brakes to a fault.
You are.
Yes, it's catching up to me a little bit, so I'm trying to pull back. I don't recommend being that way to anyone, by the way, but from where I've came from that point on, and mind you, I'm a very spiritual, religious guy. I know that's not for everybody, but I never keep that a secret, and I want to make sure that it's known. That's my direction. I am specifically God-driven, and I am basically, at this point in my life, I am trying to just listen to where I am being guided and doing what I'm supposed to do, and it has not led me wrong. Once I grasped that concept and got going on that path, that's when I've started to become what I've become. And I actually look in the mirror now and like what I see, as opposed to so many years even after that I didn't. And so I believe that there's never-ending challenges. That's a big one that shaped what I do now, but it helps me to fight the small daily ones that we all have every single day. I don't care who the person is, how many followers, how many movies, how many whatever, how much money, I don't care. We're all people. We all have the same shit. And the more that every human realizes that we're all the same, then you can deal with stuff and cope with stuff a little better. And then it's kind of like this self-intrinsic, can I do this or not? And the answer is always yes.
Yeah. There's like some amount of grit in there that you can put in to do the doing, even if it results in a slight failure or a small win that leads to a big one down the road. And I just like your level of resiliency and going through everything that you've gone through is like, it's quite honorable. And really the stigma that comes around. I've worked and put people through breathwork and cold exposure who have been in prison in the past and worked in a gym environment around them. And it's just like, it's so beautiful and interesting to see, because there's such a stigma around it that when you actually can bond with people who are coming out of the system, who are really working to collect their lives and make a better space for themselves, that it's like there's a lot of tenderness, there's a lot of real deep connection there, there's a lot of kindness and excitement for being able to have a real relationship set. So I want to just like honor that, because that is a thing for sure. And I would love to know how you take that too as well. Like some of the coming from, I mean, you're an attractive man, handsome, modeling, you know, doing all the things in movies, all of it, going through the prison system as well, but coming out and really like throughout the course of your life, I'm sort of getting a sense that you were like, had a sense of not good enoughness on the inside. And now that you've sort of transcended that to a certain degree, I know we're all on the journey. I wonder how you coach men and women who are coming to you who are really dealing with a lot of negative self-talk, because you do a ton in the cellular health space and biohacking, and we're going to get into that. But really, like, the negative self-talk is one of the biggest things that I think is crushing people's souls these days, is how much we speak ourselves down.
Yeah, you know, I've battled an eating disorder and improper vision of myself since I was 11 years old, because it's just gone from one thing to the next, whether it's being a modeling and acting, which I think it's self-explanatory on the pressure that one goes through. But you have to understand too, I started becoming a YouTube influencer when people weren't really being YouTube influencers, and the comments and things people used to say about me, you can't win. And it's always about how you look, or, you know, I'm working with bodybuilders and talking about supplements and things. So I'm X, Y, or Z, and it's never good enough for anybody. And you have to learn to realize and be comfortable in your own skin and understand that those opinions should be your fuel, and they should make you realize, well, people are listening, so I have to be doing something right and not let it bother you. I got to the point where I told my wife, I said, man, if I wake up in the morning and I ever am thinking about something like that, or I say something to you, punch me in the face, all right, and slap me silly, because that is absurd and ridiculous. Now, it's easier said than done. Mind you, it took me a while to get to that point, but I think that when you can take every single thing and aspect, every failure, every struggle, everything, and use it as fuel, then you can really make a difference daily. Look, you're not going to make these massive strides every single day, but the small accumulation of one thing that you overcome, or one thing that's a small win, accumulates into a large one over time. And I think that part of everybody's problem, and it's taken me a long time and I still battle this, is we want everything right now and we want it big, right? Yeah. And there's no understanding or comprehension of patience, earning, and especially now of accountability for where we went wrong. A lot of people now are reliant on outside circumstances determining whether or not they achieve something or accomplish something. And in reality, when you don't do something, you need to look in the mirror and say, well, why did this happen? And what could I have done to prevent it? There's excuses and there's reasons. I understand that. I'm not saying, like, I'm not a drill sergeant, but we all intrinsically know. We do. I don't care. Every single human knows, some a little bit more than others. Don't lie to yourself. If you can be honest with yourself every single day, and once again, this is easier said than done, but that's where results come, and that's where you can exceedingly get better, and you will be healthier along the way as well, mentally and physically, because those all correlate and tie hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great segue to the next question I have for you, which is really like, in working in the health space, when you're looking at like labs and data and connection, you know, there's been a lot of conversation even just about eating ketogenically or eating carnivore for mental well-being, right? There's plenty of people speaking in that space to actually course correct mental dysfunction with nutrition, for example. What are the things that you're looking at or that you want to shout out as either your specialization or most important kind of data markers to look at that can correlate to how people are like feeling about themselves in general and their overall optimization?
I'm going to say something real quick, and I'm not dancing the question because I'm not a politician.
Yeah, sure.
But I want to point this out to people because it shows the human side of things. I have been a nutritionist for 15 years, and I've been studying nutrition since I was 11 years old. One, I don't know everything, and I don't think I know everything. Two, I struggle with my own stuff every single day. So just because I know nutrition and I teach it and I'm sought after doesn't mean I'd have my own struggles, because I struggle daily. So when I say this, one of the things, and it's the biggest thing, is something that I had to battle within myself that I've been teaching to people for years. And that was this fear of fat. And it's basically, it's a term called lipophobia that I didn't even realize till my friend Ben Azadi explained to me what I had. Okay. But I had this internal terror, even though I know on my studies and my knowledge base the importance of fats. You correlate these, and if you have an eating disorder or a struggle, you take a term and then you don't realize that, like, you know, in the English language or any other language, cool can mean that's dope, or it's cool outside, it's cold, right? So fats doesn't just mean that you're fat. And what I have found is that, and there's multiple applications on the reasonings of why fat has been demonized over the years, and that I don't want to get into all of that right now. Let's just say that it's a bunch of bullshit, and I'll keep it at that. Look, there's a stark misunderstanding on cholesterol and fat utilization, saturated fats, the types of fats that you need. But I will tell you this, the importance that those have within your diet and the differentiation on how you'll feel and the true accuracy of your blood markers, it's very, very, very important. Now, I am not this stark, like really hardcore diet in one sense where you have to be like zero carbs or you gotta, you know, look, I structure things from person to person. However, I will tell you this, what I find for most, because that's the basis of your question, is a diet that is more heavily based on protein and fats with a moderate amount of carbohydrates. And mind you, we're excluding bodybuilders and people that need heavier carbs or people going for events or preps. I'm talking about your everyday person. That's what I start people out, because that's what I find correlates to the most people. But then as a nutritionist, there's a lot of determining factors that you look at on blood panels, age, family history, food allergies. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But if we're taking a generalized question, I'm in that like 40 to 45% range of fats, 40% proteins, and then 15, 20% carbohydrate makeup. And then we go from there, because that's what I find has the best overall result for people on their weight, their overall feeling, their blood markers. And a lot of people will go, what about the cholesterol and your LDL? But I will stress this to you. When we're looking at a blood panel, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that LDL is just not important. That's not what I'm saying. But I will tell you that on factors of importance, I'm more concerned about your ApoB, your Lp(a), and your particle sizes. And then we'll look at your LDL and see if there's a correlation between all four sets. But triglycerides also, LDL is quite important. It's very, very important. And I see people draining it and tearing it down to bits, being put on statins and having this in their mind. And it's ruining lives. It's, you know, brain fog and early onset Alzheimer's. And there's a lot of stuff that, you know, it's for another discussion. But we have to be careful going to extremes that are being misled to us, that a lot of people are catching up to now in our space, you know, and we're being made more aware of it. But I didn't actually implement this change in my own personal structure till it's been almost a year. It was in October, and where I went from starving myself with vegetables and egg whites and oats and nothing, no fats, no nothing, to now just 130 to 140 grams of fat a day up from 20. And I could break down the diet and the aspect, but if you take a list and you type like the top 10 best fat burning foods, like 9 out of 10 of them are all heavy in fat. So, I mean, it just tells you, you know, a lot that you need to know. Even my coffee right here, there's, you know, I use SCT oil instead of MCT, but that's short chain triglyceride, like clarified butter type of thing. But I mean, it's in everything I do now.
Yeah, which is so beautiful. And I think women specifically, and especially as well, just understanding that there's a lot of our hormone pathways are like riding on fat molecules. So how do we make sure that that's in there? And then yeah, just even from looking at my mother's blood work and having her being, you know, champion, like, you got to go on statins, and really trying to, there's so much of that that's pushed out into the public. Again, this isn't necessarily to give like all the medical advice in the world, but I've seen for 12, 15 years, like even Dave's Biohacking conference, people have conversations many, many years ago about like medical doctors getting up and saying, here are all the bad parts about statins. And when you weigh them against any of the good parts, there's really not a lot to champion there, except for a very small handful of people. So yeah, I worry
No.
about those things, and it's great that you're shouting it out.
I won't get into statins too much, but I want to make a couple points so that people
Yeah.
understand.
Please.
There are so many studies that have been skewed, and if you get an actual breakdown with them, and you can understand that they don't have any effect on cardiovascular events, and I don't think people really understand what exactly they do. So they basically are used to harden plaque, which the soft plaque is the part that is the most dangerous when you have plaque in your arteries. But then to what extent do they do damage? And while that's important, they cause a lot of other damage, especially a lot of people that suffer from like really achy muscles and like to the point where they can't even move. There's a slew of other things. So there's these things called PCSK9 inhibitors. That would be like your Repatha, for example, or Vascepa, that actually work without these side effects, that do tremendous amounts of different things that are very difficult to obtain. See, I found a heart condition on myself, which is why I've spent so many years studying. And I've learned every single thing. And see, I'm privy to info a lot of people aren't, in terms of the drug industry and how things work with insurance and how difficult it is to get the obscure drugs that I'm blessed to have. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I just want to point out
we're
that,
going to have to talk a little bit about it, because I think
Yeah.
it's so important from a cardiovascular health standpoint, because this is such a big marker of people's overall well-being, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so one of the things that is very difficult is getting approved from insurance for these drugs, and then going to try to buy them is difficult. You know, I mean, you try to go to, what is it, GoodRx, right? And like Repatha, which I take, is a biweekly injectable. That's like $600 without insurance, or $700, even on GoodRx.
Yeah.
And, you know, these are very obscure and difficult to get drugs. But they help with high cholesterol levels. But one of the things that I brought up was ApoB and LP little a. Now, lipoprotein little a is one of the things that I have found to be one of the most severe and dangerous markers for people. And that is something that you cannot control by diet, training, anything. So it's scary. It's scary. That's an inherited thing. And I think it's like 25 to 30% of people have it and don't even know it, you know, and they would never know because doctors don't test. And then when I found it, and my doctor said, well, you test it once and you're just kind of screwed. And I was not accepting that. And I was not accepting the fact you can't reverse plaque. So my LP little a score was 330, and anything over 25 is considered high. I've gotten mine down in the 90s so far. And like I was told that was not even possible. And that's, once again, therein lies when you talk to good heart doctors, they will tell you that is all nonsensical bullshit.
Yeah.
But now there's good.
You also talked about the fact that you're eating more fat in your diet, and that's not necessarily a correlate. So
No.
Yeah.
I will argue with you that the low-fat diet was part of the reason that I got trouble. And I can go well into the reasons why on a lot of those low-fat foods are terrible for you, and that we were all completely misled. And that's one of those things that's terrible because it got passed along for so long. And I find that the higher carbohydrate foods are the ones that have the most garbage in them and cause the most problems. There are great saturated fats that I have every single day that are great, that people act like they're bad. I don't do anything without Kerrygold butter anymore. I'll tell you that right now. And I'm angry for all the years I missed it at, but I have not been this lean or this cut up since I used steroids. And I am eating 1,000 to 1,200 more calories than I ever dreamed of eating before.
Yeah.
And it's all animal fats and avocados and whole eggs and ground pork, ground beef. And it doesn't have to be the 93, 95% either. You know, I have salmon, like things I never touched that I was scared to death of. So, and my skin gets better, my face, my attitude, everything.
Yeah, it's super beautiful for people to hear all this as well, right? It doesn't mean we don't need fruits and vegetables. It doesn't mean we don't need a bit of carb. There is this like fat doesn't make you fat thing that I think we keep singing in the world of health optimization, and it's like getting an understanding of those levels in the body. So what are some other things that just maybe from a cardiovascular perspective, like you're sharing with your clientele, you'd share with listeners here that are like, hey, here are the 3 other key things you can do to kind of work on cardiovascular health to, have a great longevity?
you definitely want to be active. And what I've found too is, like I told you, all gas, no brakes. I have done way too much cardio at way too high of levels and in zone 4 and 5, and I'm burning carbs I'm not even eating, right? Like your body's trying to burn carbs that aren't even there. So one of the things is walking will blow your mind at how good it is for you and how much fat you will lose. And moving after you eat a meal, 10 to 15 minutes after every meal, is huge. That will slow like the glucose spikes, the things that cause problems. And one of the things that I know you are and I am as well, is we're big on data, and I like to see data. So I like CGMs. Get a continuous glucose monitor for a month. Watch and learn your body. See what foods that are not agreeing with you and you're spiking. And then maybe it's the timing. Maybe it's order of how you're eating, or maybe it's just the amount you're eating. I don't know. That's for you to test through data. But those types of things, they give you factual information on what you're doing. But
and I've seen a lot of slander. I don't know, have you seen this? Like, not just slander is probably not the right word, but I've seen a lot of like discourse about like CGMs, they're for diabetics only. Like there's people who are saying, oh, all these people walking around with CGMs on, like it's just, you're supposed to spike when you eat, you're supposed to this and that. But like, I think it's important as well to be able to get an understanding of the landscape of your body and what it reacts to and what it doesn't. Like when I was like running late to an event and grabbing my laundry and trying to throw clothes on and putting one high heel on as I run out the door, I would see spikes in my CGM that were higher than me eating like ice cream, right? So I really learned a lot about we understand that I'm going to have a spike in blood glucose when I'm stressed or when I eat something or when I do a cold plunge or what have you. But I learned so many things about behaviors that I had to understand that actually the stress was more detrimental to glucose response and perhaps even my insulin than anything else. And also learning like over time with a cold plunge that I could actually baseline my glucose response out because I was adapting to cold. And so there's so many ways that we can learn. And so I think a lot of this like absolutist thinking of like, don't get a CGM, period, or don't do this, or only eat this way. Like it just doesn't serve us as a community. And I don't know if you're seeing a lot of this absolutist thinking as well with the CGM category. But I think there is a benefit. You don't have to have it 12 months a year, if you don't need it. But like, I think there's such a benefit to what you're saying from tracking data.
I can't wrap my head around stuff like that because I think it's so important. Like you just pointed out, there's a multitude of facets that you can analyze and see and that you can relate to everyday life. It's not just about, oh, I ate a lot of carbs I want to see and maybe I shouldn't do that anymore, so let's just not eat them. That is not what that there is. And that's small-mindedness, and that goes along with people that have this one-track mindset that stay in their ways. And that's, I pray for those people that they'll change in one day, but you just kind of, I relate this to a portion of the Bible where he said, and if they don't listen to you, you kick the dust off and move on. And that's what I try to reach everybody as I can. But I always tell my wife this, I'll always offer you once. And if you tell me no, okay, I'm not one of those people that's going to beg you. I'll offer you because I believe in doing that. But if you say no, I'm taking it as no and I'm moving on. And I'm going to help people that need my help because there's only one of me and I only have enough amount of time. But I will bust my ass to put out the proper information and give it to people the best that I possibly can. But I'm not like one of those people where it's like, I hate to say this. I don't want to say this. Do the woman thing where it's like, keep asking me if everything's okay 30 times. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to ask you because I care, but then I'm moving on. So with what you're saying, I think the more data that you can get, as long as you don't become obsessed to the point where you drive yourself nuts, and that will tie into more of like your area with mental health and stuff, then you should want all the data you can get. Just don't let it dominate you and run your life. And if you have that kind of personality, then you may want to be careful. But the more data that you can get about yourself, because each and every one of us is so intricately different than the other, it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your stance on sleep? How do you navigate sleep with clients?
Oh, shit.
You
know, I know how important sleep is. Molly Eastman, I know. And so I've had a great deal of talks with her about my lack thereof. And I've really, really been stressing, like working on it personally, on a personal level. And I'm like, okay, I'm sleeping 7 hours at least. I don't do well with 8 personally, but I have really made it a point to prioritize it to myself, but I've always stressed it to other people. You want to be careful about being hypocritical with what you teach and implementing on yourself. So I'm really trying to do everything I teach now at a much higher level. And when I stay up later at night, I'm like, well, you know what? You're going to have to sacrifice tomorrow. You're going to have to sleep a little bit later and just work a little bit harder, as opposed to trying to cut off the sleep part of it. I used to be like, well, I'm just going to have to roll on 5 hours tomorrow. Now it's like, you know what? You screwed this up, so you better figure out how to fix it tomorrow, but you got to get enough rest. Because if you don't, I assure you, I'm not old, but at 43 as opposed to 35 trying to do that, even 40, it's not good, man. It's not. You feel it everywhere, and you can get away with it a couple times, but it causes a lot of different problems. One, let's just look at weight loss. If you're not sleeping enough, your metabolism's thrown off. You're not going to cut weight properly. You're going to wake up like really hungry in carb burning mode, for example. Not good. On top of the obvious with the brain fog and functioning, but it can increase inflammation, which is the cause of all disease, really. And cortisol levels can be all over the place. Your attitude, bad. Bowel movements could be off. I mean, it just throws you into just a wide array of possible issues. So I would put sleep at the very top of my list of health priorities. And the past 6 months, especially after this long move, because I just moved cross country.
Exciting.
Yes, thank you. It has been amazing, but I was lacking sleep bad. And so the past 2 months, man, I've really made that a priority to at least get 7 hours. I try to not get anything under that. Even at 6, it's better than what I was doing, but you want to be 7 to 8, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I always try to sing to females as well, as even as we're aging, like getting that little bit of extra dip, even if it's an extra half an hour, et cetera, depending on time of our cycle, time of our life.
Yeah.
The other thing that you work really deeply in is just this understanding about mitochondrial optimization and as it correlates to inflammation management and overall health and well-being. And I want you to speak to a little bit about maybe, what that means to you, how you're working with people to boost mitochondrial health, and overall, that's how we feel and how we play this game of life is going to build into our leadership and build into our interrelational, dynamics. And so how do we get our mitochondria online in a way that feels more robust?
So when I first found biohacking and got into biohacking, because I come from the bodybuilding world, and, while I was teaching a lot of science and a lot of internal structural things, it wasn't so science-based. And to be honest with you, my least favorite subject that I despised and hated my entire life was biology, which makes this very strange to where I'm sitting now. And so when I first got into the biohacking scene and figured out, wow, was my calling, I had my eye on this company called Timeline and this product, Urolithin A, and I don't know what this internal fascination was with me at first, because you know how this is. A lot of people will promote so many things and you see them coming back up, and I'm just like, it's just another thing I got to study and another thing. But there are some things that are of huge merit, but you have to sift through them. But there was something about this that I just found fascinating when it came to the prevention of disease and anti-aging. And I've always been big on figuring out, how do we slow the aging process down in reality, right? Not this nonsense that can actually hurt us long term that people put out there. And so
not some quick solution where we put Vaseline on our face.
Yes. And it's like, how can I really figure this out without attempting to play God and do all of this nonsense? Like, there has to be a way that we're missing that we can improve our quality of life and slow or prevent disease. There has to be a way. I don't buy into the fact that heart disease has always been around, and cancer, all of these things that came over time. What are the causes? Where did disease originate? What starts it? Diseases start in our cells. Where our cells start to die, we start to die, right? And so I became fascinated with this. I approached them, and over time I studied several different aspects of urolithin A, because that's what I found was helping to be responsible for what was I learned to be mitophagy, which I'll get into in a minute, to go along with mitochondrial health and function. And so what I found is that this is the most fascinating stuff that I've ever come across in my life. And I actually took a class at Harvard studying mitochondrial health and cellular biology at night. I took a course on becoming a cellular health coach. Like, I did this all in the last 6 months. That's how infatuated I became with this. And so I started to learn exactly the importance of mitochondria and how it plays. And I'll try to keep this easy, like not too sciencey, because I'm not a biology teacher by any stretch, but I do know, the ins and outs of this to a point. And so mitochondrial, you'll hear people call it like the powerhouse of the cell, right? It's basically, just think, where does our energy come from? Because our cell, the mitochondria, produces the energy, ATP, through cellular respiration. And, like, you get into biology class and they'll explain these cycles and how it works. I'm not going to do all of that. But, your mitochondria are responsible for your energy, your aging, your cellular processes, basically anything and everything. When you have mitochondria dysfunction, that's when you're going to have all of these issues. Think metabolic disorders, neurodegenerative diseases, cardiovascular disease, cancer, all of this shit that we're going through as people. Like, a lot of it can be correlated to mitochondrial health. And it's to me, it's like, how do we not know this? Like, how is this not being discussed more? Here's what I compare it to. It's like, why aren't we learning about credit when we're in middle school and high school about how to live? Like, where are we in fucking home economics? Like, why aren't we learning about credit? Why are we taking art class? What is that going to do? So in my head, I'm like, why do not more people understand and know the origins of these problems? Like, why are we just now talking about leaky gut so much the past couple years? Why aren't mitochondrial health and leaky gut the two most discussed things when you go to the doctor, when you're looking at health function? I don't have that particular answer. I can start saying a lot of things. The point is we need to discuss it more. Yeah. And we need to make it the central theme of our focus on overall health. Okay, so what, like, mitochondria, some key aspects of mitochondria is like cellular energy production, metabolic regulation, like I talked to, control of cell death. So what is that? That's apoptosis, cell death. So I cannot stress enough the importance of looking at this early on and addressing everything in life early, not just, I'm 25 or 30, I don't need to worry about that yet. Well, if you had worried about it at a younger age, you probably wouldn't have long-term problems. Had I not used cocaine so much in my 20s, maybe I wouldn't have had a heart issue later in my life. You know what I mean? Like, so I teach people the hard truths about a lot of the mistakes that I made. And that's what's driven me to study so much in different realms. Because like when we were talking before, I told you, well, I can talk about whatever. It doesn't mean I'm an expert, but I know a lot about a little. You know what I mean? So a lot of wide varieties of topics.
Yeah, and a lot about the cellular health space and optimization space. And, you were saying before we pressed record that like you're working and you've worked really hard to work with both men and women, males and females, all different types of humans, and really just try to understand this from an aging perspective, because we're more and more I take on women who are navigating perimenopause and menopause, and just women coming to me in their 30s being like, I guess it's all downhill from here. And I'm like, stop. Don't say these things, because there's so much like time and there's so much reversibility and there's so many ways that you can live just like valiantly into your twilight years for sure.
Oh, can I just say one thing? What you just said, I literally say that all the time. Do not ever tell me, well, it's just part of getting old, or it's just part of this, or it's all downhill from here. Like, I resent that comment to the highest extent. Like, all of that negativity and all of that. When I got married, I remember I was giving our speech and I said right there, I said, a lot of people say when you get married, your life is over. And I'm like, my life's just starting. This is like a whole like journey. When you get older and you age and you learn different aspects of improving your health, you don't have to accept getting over. You are just starting a whole new journey in life. It's a different section of your life that you're just starting.
Yeah.
And you can, anymore, there's so many things that we are privy to that we can do that we did not know about before. Do not accept any of that shit that people say because it's nonsense.
Yeah,
it's nonsense.
Including medical doctors being like, this is part of aging, and being like, hey, hold on. I don't want to buy into that.
No, I don't buy into any of that.
Yeah. And you also have like so many executives and people that you're working with in like leadership that I wonder what you'd if you just share some of the key like blind spots that some of these executives and leaders and powerhouse people are like, the blind spots that are showing up for them when it comes to cellular health, when it comes to like optimizing their workflow, their focus, their capacity. Are you seeing like a commonality or a common thread through these, A-type super powerful players that you get a chance to work with?
Part of the problem with the people, I don't like to generalize, but I will talk about things I experience and that I see often. And, it's very easy to take things for granted and to overlook things. And I'm one of those people that when I know there's a problem and something's off, I go. I just go. And because the worst case scenario is you wasted an hour or two, but you could prevent something. I see so many people that come to me that they're like, I start asking them questions. Well, I've never had that done. Well, I've never had that done. And I'm sitting here and I don't judge. That's not my job. I don't have time for that. But in my mind, I'm going, what made you think you were invincible? And I think maybe I learned I'm not invincible when I went to prison. But then things start happening, and you get older, you see more people die, you see more people getting disease and everything. And a lot of the people with a lot of money, they think they're invincible. They think, or they'll do the excuse of, I just don't have time. I've got this or that. And you have to make time for your health. Yeah. If you don't make time for your health, what's the point in having all of this? There is no point because it doesn't go with you and you can't enjoy it.
And it's like there's been times that I'm like, oh, okay, I love that you're driving the sports car of your dreams you spent $100,000 on. That's like no judgment if that's what you're working towards and that feels good to you. But if you're not going to spend a couple $1,000s on lab work, then we have an issue. There's like a prioritization shift that needs to happen.
No, I'm all about it.
Have joy, but if you're all, in a disease state, you're not going to have joy and drive that fancy car that you have. So, yeah.
I mean, I love things, and I will say this: I've had what you would think. I so many times I went to bed and I have a beautiful home. I have cars. I have an arcade machine in my house. I have everything you could want. A beautiful wife, and I'd go to bed and I'd feel so empty. And why do I feel so miserable? Now, I will say part of it was I wasn't God first, but then also it's like I'm focused on all of these things and I'm not really helping people. I'm convincing myself that I'm doing great things, but am I? And I was like, no, you're really pro Dylan and you're really Dylan first a lot more than you think, because you live in the blinders and what is like. When I first started doing really, really, really well, when I had money I'd never dreamed of having, I was like, well, let's go to the Gucci store and let's do this and buy everything. And then I'd just be like, am I enjoying this? Like, I just want more stuff. And then it became this thing, well, I've always got to have new things. And then it hit me, and it hit me hard when we moved. And I said to my wife, I am ashamed of all of this shit that I bought. I'm ashamed of myself, like literally, when I should be working hard for us and I should be working hard for others and giving people things that I earn and helping them and investing our money and doing things the right way. So my whole headspin has changed, and everything that I do now, I'm trying to be on more shows and talk to help people and tell them every mistake I've ever made. What I find is some of the best teachers have made the most mistakes, and they're willing to talk about it and help others. Those are the people I want to associate with and talk to, not the people that act like they're perfect and they never done anything wrong and, oh, I'm so great, I make this much money. Look, I do well, but I have screwed up way more than I do well. And I want you to know why. And I want you to not do it. And I don't want you to be an asshole like I was. I want you to know that I was, so that you can know when you are. And I think when you can do that and you can laugh about some of the things, or at least use it as fuel, you're gold, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm never ashamed. Oh, I'm ashamed of behavior, but I'm not ashamed of where I came from it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lot of these are like massive life lessons we get along the way. And I like to believe that that's the like higher calling for us to show up for our clients and try to say, I'm going to tell you some things you might not avoid. But if you can avoid a few of these, you'll be way better off way sooner. You'll be healthier, younger. You'll have your shit together way faster than I do. You'll process your traumas. You'll feel like, it's like reparenting ourselves and reparenting our clients in some way, right? So that they can optimize their own lives and their own behaviors and their own cellular health. So I'm loving that you do the work that you do, and that you do it from such a practical place where you're just like such a straight shooter in the way that you speak to people, that you're very clear on your message, and that you kind of don't take any bullshit, because I think you do that so that you're not wasting people's time. And I really, really love that about the way that you show up. I just want to honor that.
Thank you. You know why? A couple reasons, but one, when you lose the amount of time that I lost being in prison, you start to realize I can't get that back. And then you think back to what you could have been doing then. And then you think about how quick days go. And you wake up one day and it's like, where did the last year go? It was just Christmas and it's Christmas again. And then you think about all the times, like my wife said to me, like, can't you just make a little bit more time for me? And I was like getting angry, and it's like, well, now I regret it, and I could have. And you put that value on time. And if I just tell you what you want to hear, I'm wasting your time and I'm wasting my time, and I'm not helping you at all. I'm being selfish. I liked the person that could tell me when we'd go party, your hair looks like shit or your clothes look like shit. I want everybody to tell me, like, you talk too much or you're getting off topic. Tell me. I'd rather know, and so I don't keep doing it, and make a fool. But I believe in telling everybody what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And some people love me for that, and some people hate me for it. And if you do, I'm sorry. But I believe in authenticity on, off camera, no matter what I'm doing. I'm not playing a character. I'm playing who I am.
Yeah. And a little bit of tough love. I think that's why people stick with you, is because you can give them the tough love and they understand that it comes from such a wonderful place. It really comes from your heart. I love that.
Yeah. Well, if you sit here and tell everybody all the wrongs you did, I'm not judging you. I'm just telling you, like, hey, man, like, don't do this shit,
Yeah, exactly. I could spend so much time with you, and we will spend more time, sure. But I want to just ask you, kind of to close out today's interview, like, what's the vision and the next frontier for you, Dylan, and in the evolution of your work and everything that you're bringing to the world in service?
I'm trying to really push my podcast to an extremely high level, because it's not really about, do I care if you write me and I'm popular? Do you tell me I'm so great? It's that I feel like I'm here to change people's lives and touch them. I don't care about all that other bullshit that comes along with it. I'm going to be on more shows, and I'm trying to highlight professionals that really do things in specialty areas. And I want to be as multifaceted as I can so I can help everybody. I understand that I'm always going to be considered a health and fitness guy, but I want to be an everything guy. I want to be a total life-changing, representative of what life should be. And I want to offer my platform and my ability to hopefully captivate an audience by helping people of all ilks. I don't care. I just want to provide something for everyone.
Yeah. And you put out so many great resources, and just to be able to have the platform of a podcast as someone who has a podcast that's still growing in its fashion to the level that yours is. It's like, how do we get out education for people so that they can get no cost education as a starting point? Because there's so many people out there that are navigating budgets that are not going to be sufficient enough to travel overseas and get peptides and do all these things. So I really appreciate that about you, and would love also, can you tell the listeners about your show, where they can listen and subscribe, and where they can find you so they can get more insight and info?
Yeah, of course. So it's very simple. The Dylan Gemelli podcast, Apple, Spotify, everywhere. I'm finishing my website right now, dylangemelli.com. It's going to be pretty damn sweet. I'm lagging, but it's almost there. And, my Instagram is really the best place to get me. Facebook is good, but Instagram is where I do most of my best work.
Hard.
I post on TikTok, but don't message me there. You'll never get a response. I don't look at anything. I don't like it. I just use it because I have to.
Yeah.
But Instagram definitely is the way to really get to me. And just please leave me a review on my podcast. It helps a lot. That's all I ask. I don't ever need anything from anybody else. Just that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's very good to spend this time with you. Thank you for being to so many people, for sharing your wealth of knowledge, and also for sharing your most authentic truth, the story and the arc of everything you've been through in your life. Like, I'm so appreciative of your journey, birthing you into the man and the king that you are right now. So
thank you so much, Kristin. I love this, and I can't wait to interview you, and I will come back anytime you want me.
Okay. Amazing. Thanks so much for your time today.